Hi everyone, this is Hitesh and welcome to another exciting video. So today we'll learn about the dispatchers and the different type of dispatchers that we use in Kotlin coroutines. This video builds on my previous ones where we have explored coroutines and the suspending functions. You can find the playlist in the description below. So by the end of this video, you will have a solid understanding of how dispatchers works with coroutines. And just to add on top of this, this basically is one of the frequently asked interview questions in Android. So let's get started without any delay. So the first question arises is how dispatchers helps coroutines. In Kotlin, dispatchers help coroutines in deciding the thread on which the task has to be done. We use coroutines to perform certain tasks efficiently. Coroutines run the task on a particular thread. This is where the dispatchers comes into play. So guys, just to give you a very simple example, assuming that you are using a view model in your Android project and it demands that you have to make an API call like fetch user. So of course you are going to do that operation on a background thread, right? So this is the place that you can make use of the dispatchers. You can decide that okay, I'm going to launch the coroutine, but that operation has to be executed on the background thread. So to decide which kind of thread it has to be, dispatchers plays an important role. Let's see how it works. So there are different types of dispatchers: dispatchers.default, dispatchers.io, dispatchers.main. Let's talk about dispatchers.default. So we should use dispatchers.default to perform CPU intensive tasks, doing heavy calculations like matrix multiplications, doing any operations on a bigger list present in the memory like sorting, filtering, searching, etc., applying the filter on the bitmap present in the memory, or passing the JSON available in the memory. So guys, as the definition suggests or says that any kind of heavy operations or the intensive task which has to be performed, at that point in time you have to make sure that you make use of dispatchers.default. Whenever you are trying to use coroutines, you just pass dispatchers.default as the parameter because they are meant to perform heavy operations, or they are meant to be used to perform any kind of heavy operations. Now let's talk about dispatchers.io. So any network operations like making a network call, downloading a file from the server, moving a file from one location to another, reading from a file, writing to a file, or making a database query, or maybe loading the shared preference. So any kind of operations that demands any kind of network calls, or reading, writing, or making some queries, those are the places where you should make use of dispatchers.io. IO stands for input output. So that's pretty much about dispatchers.io. Now let's talk about dispatchers.main. So we should use dispatchers.main to run a coroutine on the main thread of Android. Guys, we all know, right, like where to use the main thread of Android. Mainly at the places where we interact with the UI and perform some small task. Performing UI related task or any small task like any operations on a smaller list present in the memory like sorting, filtering, searching, etc. So as I've mentioned earlier, assuming if you are going to make an API call, I would suggest that we should be making use of dispatchers.input-output with the coroutine to make that API call. It will switch from the main thread to the background thread, that is the input-output thread. And once you have the result, once you have received the result, right, you are going to come back to the UI, right, because you would have to load the result to show it to the user. So assuming that is the view, that is the fragment or the inactivity that where you're going to show the result, right? So that would be the place where you are going to make use of dispatchers.main, because that operation or that thing has to happen on the main thread, be it interacting with the UI or a button click event, or showing or loading the list of users that you have received from the background thread. So that's like how this is how you're going to make use of the dispatchers. Assuming you have used any kind of scope, be it global scope, view model scope, or be it lifecycle scope, dot launch. So this is launch with something which tells that you are going to launch the coroutine, and in the parameter you will pass the type of dispatcher. the dispatches.main, dispatches.io, dispatches.default. So guys, this is pretty much about the dispatchers. Just to quickly rewind, dispatches.default are meant to perform heavy operations. Dispatches.io are meant to perform any kind of network operations, and dispatches.main are meant to perform any smaller operations that demands the UI interaction, because this is what happens on the main thread. And just to add one more thing on top of this, so there is a question that might be asked in the interview for Android, that whenever we launch the coroutine, so what is the default dispatcher that is being passed in the parameter? Like for example, if you're launching global scope or view model scope.launch, and you don't explicitly pass any kind of the dispatcher from all three of them, then what is the default dispatcher that coroutine will understand that on which thread it has to execute the operation? So the answer for that question is, it will be dispatchers.main. Main is the by default dispatcher that is used to execute any kind of operation whenever a coroutine is launched. So what to learn next now? How to start a coroutine? Maybe like we can make use of run blocking or launch or async, and then different type of scopes like global scope, view model scope, and lifecycle scope. So this is the conclusion of the dispatchers. I hope you have understood what are dispatchers and when to use them. That's all for today, guys. If you have found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you have any specific questions or topics related to dispatchers or how coroutine works, or anything that is related to Android, just feel free to add your comments in the description or in the comment section below. I would be more than happy to come back with an answer, or I would share some more content, and I'll try to create more content for you. Thank you, happy learning, and I'll see you in the next video.